Hi, I'm Father Anthony Hannon, and this is To Prepare. Some of you may have seen the live stream that I did a couple days ago on Friday, August the 18th, from the beautiful little cottage town of Westport, Ontario. And I was there. There was two other priests there. There's about 15 protesters. Westport Library, public library, because there was a drag story, what I thought was a drag queen story time, and there were supporters out there, and it was a very, peaceful protest. It was a very, on both sides, I would say, and you can go back and look at that. I was a little bit disappointed that apparently an undercover policeman was there. I don't know if he was sent by the Ontario Provincial Police, or he was where the library is paying for him. Whoever, I don't know what was going on, but I look back and I thought, I should have asked his name and badge number, or at least who is he, when he just approached me, because basically one of the priests had just told me that he was an undercover policeman. When I went over to try to see if anyone of the supporters for the event wanted to say anything, um, uh, he started coming over and saying, "Don't talk to. No one's allowed to talk to each other," or anything like that. And anyway, there's always these kind of unexpected things that happen, and afterwards, I think I could have handled that differently. Maybe I should have handled that differently. Anyway, after the fact, um, uh, someone gave me this newspaper, which is from the Westport area. It's the Review Mirror, and it was dated August the 17th, so that would have been the Thursday, the day before the event. And on page 3, there's this article. So when I read it, my initial response in my mind was, we were kind of duped. It wasn't a drag queen story time after all. And I looked at it and I thought, were we played? Were the protesters played? So I'd like to read you this little article, and then give you my answer to the topic of this video, the title of this video, which is, was last Friday's event grooming? Was it a case of grooming? And then, of course, I look forward to anyone's comments to think if they think it was grooming or not. So here we go. And and with me, I thought it was really good at that event that there was not screaming or yelling or anything like that going on, and I really thought it was a great opportunity to listen to others, and to try to understand others, right? And I think that's very important, because these are fellow human beings whom God loves, and what is troubling them. And I would hope that there'd be some who would be wondering what is troubling us, who would be there opposed to this type of event. And then we can come to some sort of understanding. We could move forward. But anyway, so it says, drag story time comes to Westport Library Friday. Now here we have a picture here of the person who's going to be doing the reading, and the kind of the stage name of the person is Dare de la Femme. Hails from Kingston, where she led a public reading in the downtown Market Square. About 50 children and parents attended a similar event at Brockville Public Library, while protesters and supporters milled outside. So it sounds like when she went to the Brockville Public Library, there was protesters and supporters, and that milled outside. You know that seems fairly peaceful to me. I wanted to show you something though. She's in the article here, which I'm going to read in a second. It says that she doesn't man. Um, she to me she looks a bit like a mime, a little bit like a mime. um, and she does have a drawn on beard on her face there. So is that true that she's not dressing like a man? Um, anyway, she's dressed up in a costume, maybe a fun costume that maybe some of these businesses that put on like um, birthday parties for children or something like that. Okay. Anyway, here we go. This story is written by Janice Howard. Drag King Dare de la Femme is coming to Westport Public Library to lead a children's story time. The August 18th Story Hour will showcase Dare de la Femme, reading 4 picture books that promote diversity, inclusion, and acceptance among children. None of the books have sexual undertones, nor does the female performer's costume as a man. Um, quote from quote, "This is not an attempt to groom or convert the children," unquote, says Mary Chakowski, chair of Friends of Westport Library, which is co-sponsoring the event with Westport Pride. Uh, Another quote from her: "Our goal is simply to encourage kids to be themselves and not conform to others' expectations," unquote. One story, which is entitled Red, a crayons story by Michael Hall, describes how Red couldn't live up to his label by always producing blue instead of red. Everyone had an opinion as to where the trouble lay, but nothing seemed to help. Then Barry suggested he create a blue ocean, leading Red to a clearer understanding of who he really was. Another title. By the way, this article is not read very well to be able to tell. It should be in italics or underlined so that people know that it's the title of the book. But anyway, so this other book called Not Quite Narwhal by Jesse Sima is a New York Times bestseller that has been made into an animated series on Netflix. Readings of the other 2 books can be previewed on YouTube. One is called My Shadow is Purple by Scott Stewart, and Thelma and the Unicorn by Aaron Blabey. Drag Story Time began in San Francisco in 2015, with the momentum gaining traction in public spaces and libraries across Ontario, including Ottawa and Almont. Dare de la Femme hails from Kingston, where she led a public reading in the downtown market square. About 50 children and parents attended a similar event at Brockville Public Library, while protesters and supporters milled outside. Dare, is that her name? But maybe it is. Maybe that's her name, and it's a kind of a play on words a bit. Anyway, Dare says she lives a normal life as a gay woman, spouse, and mother, but performs as a drag king. "There's nothing sexual about my performance. It's completely acceptable for kids." This is a quote from her, assures the mother of 2. Another quote, furthering the quote: "It's not any different than entertaining kids in a clown suit," unquote. Parents are encouraged to accompany their children to the interactive performance, which will include storytelling, questions and answers, and singing familiar action songs. Drag Story Time starts at 3 p.m. on Friday, August the 18th. Seating is limited. Advance registration is required at, and then the email for the library. Now I want to first of all, draw attention that the title of this article says Drag Story Time Comes to Westport Library Friday. And in the background, you may not be able to see in this picture, but there's some posters, kind of made up like for children, or you might see in a classroom. And it said in a library, to promote reading or whatever, and it says reading isn't a drag, D-R-A-G. And then I can't make out anything else that's there. This is my opinion. This is grooming. Why? Because so this is presented as something innocuous, something, it's just a nativity for children. She's dressed up kind of like a clown. Like I said, to me, it looks more like a mime or something. And there's nothing sexual in the readings. So this is not about grooming, said the representative from the Friends of Westport Library. Because there's nothing, it's not about grooming because there's nothing sexual there. No, this is exactly sexual. So for example, just understand this. If there's something, whatever, you belong to the library, you get an email, there's an event coming up, it's family friendly, it's on Friday, this is the time, come, this is the person, whatever, and it says drag story time. Okay, it's a drag thing, and they go, and it's like, oh, this is actually just fun, there was nothing wrong with it. And so then the person is like, oh, I went to drag, or a parent might even, I went to drag story time and there was nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it there. You guys, you protesters or whatever, you're just zealots, you're jumping to all sorts of conclusions and assumptions, and you're a bunch of haters and whatever. But say just a kid goes and it's like, that was fun. Oh yeah. Did you like that? Oh, I like that a lot. I like drag story time. Well, that was a if this was innocuous, which I don't even think it is. I mean, when you talk, we've got these keywords, right, of promoting diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. We know these words are misused in our society today, but well, maybe the next event won't be so innocuous. Right? Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it won't be harmless. Maybe it won't be. But it's advertised drag. Oh, I went to drag. I really like drag. And then they go, and then their innocence is corrupted. And so I mean, what if you said to a kid, oh, we're gonna go see a drag story time, and you bring them to like a baseball game or whatever, and they like the baseball game, and it's like, oh, have you ever been to a drag show? Oh yes, I went last Saturday. It was great. I loved it. Because it's a misrepresentation of what it is. That's if it's what it is. So in other words, if it's gonna be just a story time for children, and it's a clown dressed up with a fake mustache and beard, and has nothing to do with sexuality or drag, well then, or then forget that. Don't call it drag. Children's story time comes to Westport Library, and these are the books. And parents, here's where you can review them. And if you want to bring your kids, bring them. But you call it drag. So they are trying to provoke a response from, from people who would disagree with drag stuff, and especially to children, and they are misrepresented. This is exactly what grooming is. This is exactly what grooming is. It's gaining the trust and saying, see, there's nothing wrong. We're not out to get your children. There was nothing sexual in there. So that's why I say this is grooming. Whatever was going on, whatever was read, whatever the content of the story is, if you're advertising something like this and you're saying drag is family friendly, no, that's grooming. That's in my opinion. Now, I really think, after thinking about this a bit, I really think that the only parents who would rush to bring their kids to such a thing are parents who themselves are not um, what we're gonna, who themselves identify themselves as gay or lesbian or whatever, and and they have children, and so they bring their kids to it, and to me this is about the parents trying to um, affirm their own ideas and put that on these children. Anyway, I don't want to get it too much into it. I just wanted to clarify that I do think um, that's exactly what grooming is. um, it was that, so it's like, could you say, and I have reason to believe that I'm going to get an update about what was going on in there. Um, and if it's worthwhile, I'll I'll put that on the YouTube. But yeah, yeah, people are not flocking to these things. You know, most parents would not be bringing their children to something that is called drag story time. Period. And that's kind of the silver lining to it. Most people do have common sense, and um, obviously there's this is a societal a societal push, and so-called progressive, and I do not see it as a good thing. Now some do say, well, no one should go and protest this or anything like that, because it's just adding fuel to the fire. It's just giving them what they want, giving them attention, stuff like that, and that may be true. Now there are two events coming up this September that they're trying to make them big events. One is September 20th, and the other is on September 22nd. And I don't know if this is a countrywide thing, a province-wide thing, or whatever. And I have not decided whether I'm going to go to these things or not. But one is organized by a Muslim man, and it's called the Million Person March or Protest or whatever. And this is particularly, against these woke agendas in the public schools, and that would include public Catholic schools. Okay, in Ontario, most of the Catholic schools are not run by the church; they're run by the government and the unions. And I've mentioned that many times in other videos. But so that's on September 20th. I do believe that's down in Ottawa. And then Josh Alexander, who has said he's going to be there in Ottawa. On the 22nd, I think he's going to be at some schools or school boards in Toronto. And what should I say? Is this a good thing to protest this or not? And it is a little bit of a strategic thing. Could be like, ignore it, and it will go away because it doesn't have any traction anyway. And also the protest could be, adding fuel and justification for, the governments, certain governments, certain prime ministers, whatever, to justify, giving all sorts of millions of dollars to, to promote these agendas. But he doesn't need any reason to justify it. But yeah, politics, I guess, can be a dirty game. So that could be. But I think because this really is such a a tiny minority that they I think it's important to or it could be beneficial, I think, to awaken shame. Not, and I'm not talking about pointing fingers and saying shame, shame, shame on you, but sometimes just a silent witness or just going and being eyes on the ground is to something like this thing at the library on Friday can be beneficial, um, because they know there's something wrong with this, but they're trying, like explained in the last video. I think that they suffer from a guilty conscience, and they're trying to justify it and trying to prove to the world that everything, that this is normal or this is good or something like that. So yeah, it's like and was it June the 7th or June the 9th of this year down on Broadview Avenue in Ottawa. When I went down, I live streamed that, and so many of the, in that case it would be counter protesters, because the protesters are protesting the woke agenda in the schools, and so the counter protesters were all the ones with the rainbow flags and whatnot. And you'll notice that most of them were wearing face coverings, which are disguises. Why? Because they're ashamed, and they should be ashamed. And now they might be afraid. They might be afraid of us. They actually believe that we are haters and that we're like pitchfork and torches people or something like that. But and they're afraid for their lives or something like that. But we're on the side of right, so we don't have to wear disguises, right? And so it may have some benefit. And just the other thing about the protests, and people can speak up in different ways. You don't have to go to a protest or anything. And again, I'm a little bit torn on whether these things are truly beneficial or not. But I can kind of see both arguments. But the children don't have a voice, and I see it as bullying, as kind of bullying the children when they're exposed to these things. And the children, they don't know what's going on. They can't say no. They don't have the power to say no. So I think it's up to regular people to be a voice for them and saying, don't abuse children, don't groom children, don't you know this is not good. So that's my take on it, and I want to know what your take on it is. So I do see that there's been a couple of viewers leaving some chats in the live chat. Let me just make sure that I have it on live chat and not top chat, so I get everyone's comment. So sure, 7318. So I did see that you had comments on the live stream, sure. So thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for your engagement in this. I'm just reading them, and sure says very clever vipers. Kids don't know any better than but that they love balloons bright colors. Agreed. And of course, I realize that sometimes people leave comments in the chat there that while I'm talking, so I don't. Sometimes it's hard for me to connect the dots as what they're responding to. Paisley says, I've seen woke, in quotation marks, parents, mostly mothers, who take their children to these library events. So, yeah, but is it like a normal mother? Would most mothers bring their children to this if they weren't, you know? I mean, maybe their son, is not rough and tumble, or their daughter is a tomboy, they've been kind of convinced by society, or by this agenda, media, or whatever. Uh, I mean, I guess it's possible that a normal mother or father would look at their child and say maybe they're a boy trapped in a girl's body or something. I mean, as insane as that is to me. So Sure says, I think we should think about these kids into grooming. So I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah, look, we have a problem in Canada for sure, and in the United States, I guess, or various states, we have a problem that, the screening process to adopt children or to foster care children, um, does not discriminate, and probably gives some preferential you know, uh, treatment. So I think that's very scary. You know, there are horror stories coming to foster care, and yeah, foster care has always kind of been a problem. There are good men and women who foster children, and there are some who are just in it for the money, and I mean, and possibly ulterior motives. And there's definitely, I believe that there can be all sorts of abuse in foster families. So Paisley, I think, is responding to Sure, agreeing about the foster care situation. So Sure responding to me about the shame thing is, she says, he or she, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, Sure, don't want to mispronoun you. uh, but I do not believe they have a conscience anymore to be shamed. Well, that is possible. My former archbishop, when I was talking to him about, these parades that go on Ottawa, I said, are they shameful parades or shameless? And he said both. Exactly. Exactly. It should be full of shame, but they don't have any shame. Yeah. Have you no shame? Come on. Paisley says, yes, I believe that most people don't even know the meaning of conscience. They go by their feelings. Right. Yes, normal money, more yes, normal mothers. Like normal woke mothers. I guess it's the cool thing to be. Interesting. And okay. So, Paisley is saying about the head of a foster care in a large Ontario city is a gay man. Well, in Ottawa, there's the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. We CHEO, and he's a former politician, or is it? Are the heads of these hospitals de facto politicians anyway? Is a political position, but Alex Munter, he is he was a very very well known municipal politician. I think he was the mayor of Canada before it was amalgamated into the city of Ottawa, and he was perhaps a city councillor in Ottawa. I'm not sure, but yeah, out of the blue, a few years ago, he uh, he becomes the CEO of the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. How does that happen? Like, he doesn't have any background in like, he's not a doctor or anything, and he's the background in medicine. It's you know seems odd to me that it seemed odd to me that he became the CEO of the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. He did start I think it's called the Canada Courier Standard, which is when he was like a teenager or just graduated from high school, and which is a kind of a local newspaper in the Canada area. Canada is a western part of Ottawa, and very nice place to live, actually. I think very well-to-do place, I think. But yeah, so he started a local paper. Speaking of local papers, this is my local paper here, the Frontenac News, and it's a weekly newspaper that's distributed through the mail to all the residences here. And the owner of it, or the editor, or whatever, Jeff Green, he does, ask from time to time people to consider giving a donation to help the circulation of the newspaper, because people see that it's beneficial. I find the most beneficial part of the paper is the advertisements, because obviously he runs advertisements. The only local newspaper where you can run advertisements. So, I don't know what percentage of businesses advertise in this paper, but it's a high percentage. But let's see, August 17th, he did a little editorial here on August the 10th about news content can't be viewed in Canada. So you know what all that's about in Canada, the so-called censorship bill, which actually kind of backfired, at least presently, with the federal government, because they wanted, big social media like Facebook, which I think is called Meta, and others, to pay, to pay the mainstream medias like Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, Global Mail, the big ones here in Canada, or any Canadian news agency, to pay them some money if they link to their content on their platform, right? And like Meta, I think, just came back and said, well, no problem, we won't run any Canadian news then, that's all. So that kind of seemed to me quite hilarious, quite ironic that they decided to do that, and kind of take the wind of the sail of that forced legislation. But anyway, so he's talking about here Facebook followers and how many people access news through that and everything like that. And in there, I think he talked about he doesn't get any government funding, but I'd have to look at it. I don't want to misquote, but I think I read something like that in his editorial. And while he may not be like a local newspapers like this, they might not get direct grant money from governments, but they do receive government money through advertising. So, for example, here's May 13th, 2021. May 13th, 2021. And here's so this is just a dental ad or whatever, but this is a full half page ad in color from the government of Ontario to encourage everyone, to wear these and to get this. So they do receive advertisement from government, and then they definitely receive. That was the Ontario government. I recall I couldn't find a paper like just before the video, just before I went live. I do believe I've seen advertisement from the federal government in this newspaper, but maybe not. But they have the townships. They do these full ads, um, and North Frontenac, South Frontenac, um, and they 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 they're paying for those ads with what? With our taxpayer money, our property tax money, right? So I don't think this newspaper, I could be wrong, I stand to be corrected. I don't think that the newspaper is putting these ads from the townships um, for free. So your advertisers will influence you. Like for example, say there was a business, say a car dealership or something that was taking out, huge ads, color ads in the local municipal newspaper, and that's a lot of money. That becomes part of their budget. They need that money. Well, maybe it is the newspaper going to dig very deeply if there's some sort of accusation that there's some sort of dishonesty or something going on with that business? And I would suggest that might not be their top priority. Um, just human nature being what it is. I don't mean to sound cynical or anything like that, but the last few years have definitely brought me more to the cynical side of things. So I'm going to take a look at more of the live chat and then I'll sign off on here. I don't know if I do want to do this other video on this other topic regarding, I don't know, Catholic liturgical battles or something. But I don't know when I'm going to do that. It might be very soon. I'm expecting some visitors any moment now, so I expect my dog to start barking. And the internet is so slow here that when there's others here using the internet, it would be virtually impossible for me to do an upload. Okay, so back to taking a look at the live chat here. Sure continues on. We are infested with deviants. Paisley says any mention, so I'm skipping some of these, and if you are online now or later, it does take a day or so for YouTube to upload this. Well, I suspect it might have something to do with my internet speed here, but where you can look at the chat replay. But anyone, please take a look at the chat replay either now or live or the replay later. So Paisley says any mention of a contrary position to the woke gay mentality in my local newspaper is consistently banned due to, quote, not following community guidelines. What's a grandmother to do? Pray, pray, pray. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this newspaper is completely left wing crazy. This is my local newspaper. I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. We need some. You know what? Part of the retreat center here is to give people an opportunity to get quiet, that they might be inspired to do something, and maybe there's some people that could offer some competition for the local newspapers, who are more right thinking. Sure is asking me, Father, are you near the current fires? No. Community guidelines, Paisley says, also known as communist guidelines, pretty much. Okay, so very good. I appreciate the chat of the two viewers that we're going on there doing this video. Thank you for everyone who's been watching this. And I guess I'll sign off now with my usual blessing. And and let me know in comments of the video whether what you think. Do you think this event, based on that article that I read, do you think that this is a case of grooming, or do you think it's just, look, this is just an event at the library for children, and it's not, there's nothing to be concerned about here? Also, let me know if you think that it's beneficial to, go to these protests, or whether we're just playing into their hands and drawing more attention to it. Okay. Also, I've noticed on some live videos, either at least on some other channels, that if it's a live, they YouTube will show the chat replay, but there aren't any comments, and so I don't know if that's going on. And if you are looking this live, remember also that I do produce some videos that aren't live, but you have to go to a different column for that on the channel. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and I hope this is helpful to some people. May Almighty God bless each and every one of you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Go in peace, live in the truth, live free.